Hey there, friends. Jeff Fritz here, and I've been asked to take a look at some PDF tools that you can use for .NET. I originally got into this thinking I'm going to use one of these tools to generate some reports, generate some output from my ClipTalk web application, and as I dug into it further, I found some really cool capabilities that I want to share with you that are going to make it really easy for me to generate PDFs for a web application. So I was asked by the folks at Iron Software, hey, take a look. If you're interested in PDF software, take a look at Iron Software and a couple of the competitors that are out there and do a little bit of a showdown. Take a look at how these things work. So I decided to do that, and I grabbed a couple different pieces of software. Of course, I decided that I was going to look at IronPDF to start with. Aspose, I see their advertisements in many places. So let's take a look at Aspose's PDF software. SyncFusion makes a great PDF tool, so we'll bring theirs into the mix. And finally, one that I see very popular that people talk about on Stack Overflow a lot, iText or iText PDF is out there. So let's bring in these four and do a little bit of a comparison, a shootout, if you will, of how these things all work and compare. So I broke it down into several different criteria that I wanted to rate. And I wasn't going to rate things on a scale of 1 to 10, but on a scale of 1 to 4. Between the four of them, which one was the best? I'll give that a 4. And which one was the worst? And I'll give that a 1. And if for some reason I can't complete the test, the tool will get a 0. So here are the criteria that I'm going to judge each one of these tools on. So first, discovery and acquisition. As a .NET developer, in the places that I go to look for these tools, can I find them? Licensing. Am I allowed to use these? I want to use this eventually with ClipTalk, so what kind of licensing process do I have to go through? Is it easy for me to understand? Compatibility. Is it going to work with .NET 6, .NET 7, .NET Core if I need to use some of those capabilities? And what's the getting started experience like? There's documents out there for sure, maybe some tutorials. What do we have? What's available out there? What's that experience like? Because I don't know these tools and I just want to get started. And then the API. How easy is it for me to use these things? What's it look like? Does it feel right? Is it comfortable for me to use? Or did they just slap an API on top of something else and it feels kind of all over the place and difficult to interact with? We're going to take a look at that as well. And what's the documentation like? Is it being updated? Is it quality? Does it look good? Is it easy for me to search through? Let's talk about that as well. And the big thing for me here is HTML to PDF capabilities. I'm a web guy. I build HTML documents all the time. So let's give me tools that allow me to take web documents and turn them into PDFs, because I'm not a report builder. Let's build and use tools that fit the way that I work. All right? And technical support. Is it available? How do I get in touch with those folks? Is there a chat room, a forum, some discussion area that I can go to get help? What does that look like when I run into an issue and I need to contact these folks that make these tools? And release cadence. How quickly do they publish updates, fixes, these types of things? So let's get into this. Let's take a look at what's available out there and start tinkering with each one of these products. Now, I've written a little bit of sample code along the way, and I'm going to give you the GitHub URL for that. It's just below in the description, so you can download this source code and grab some of these tools and run the tests for yourself. All right, let's take a look at the first criteria, discovery. So first thing that I did was I went over to NuGet and I searched for PDF. That's simple, that's straightforward. So let's head over to NuGet and take a look at what's involved in finding a PDF tool. All right, so here I am. I'm looking at NuGet.org. You see, I searched for PDF and 2,600 packages. My goodness, That's a ton out here, but we're looking for those 4 tools: Aspose, iText, SyncFusion, and Iron Software. And scrolling down here, I see a couple of them that aren't even on my list right now. PDF Sharp comes up front with 14 million downloads. There's Aspose right in the 3rd spot. Now IronPDF pops up there. And there's iText. iText Sharp pops up. 24 million downloads for them. And finally, there's SyncFusion. So we're going to give some scores. There's the scoreboard below. I'm going to give 4 points to Aspose. I'm going to give 3 points to IronPDF, 2 points to iText, and 1 point to SyncFusion because of the order that we found them in. All right. Next, let's talk about licensing clarity. All right, I'm going to go over to the IronPDF website. And here I can see very quickly information, some sample code, and right away I have a licensing button here, and there are perpetual licenses available. Cool. 3 different models, and there's a professional perpetual one down here. I've even got somebody popping in suggesting, hey, I can help you out. That's nice. So very clear what's available. I'm one developer I'll be developing and deploying to 1 location. So the light model looks like it would work well for me here. Let's take a look at Aspose. Here's their website. If I go to productsaspose.com/PDF, and here's their processing solution. Great. I want the .NET one. There we go. PDF API for .NET. That's easy to find. And pricing. Okay. So pricing information here. There's a temporary license available. Okay. And 1 developer, 1 deployment location. That's almost what I need. 1 developer and unlimited deployment locations. That sounds like what I need. These other ones, 10 developers, unlimited developers. That's a little more than what I'm looking for. Scrolling down a little bit further to some of the details underneath of this, I do need to use this with a website, so it looks like I need this license right here. Lots of options. That's nice. Almost too many options, and some of these other constraints that are available down here make it a little bit tricky to hunt and find exactly which one I'm looking for. Okay, let me head over and let's talk about iText. So here's iText PDF. Generate and manipulate PDFs effortlessly. Fantastic. There's a licensing menu right there at the top, and there's open source and commercial licenses available. Well, am I an open source project? I'm not an open source project. I'm just distributing a website. So do I fit into that model? And a Affero General Public License. What's an Affero General Public License? I'm not publishing source code anywhere. I'm going to be pulling this in and using this as part of a larger application. So why use it where free open source allows you to read through the full code API? Right, that's the kind of thing that I like. In general, I like to support and use open source products. How to use the license correctly. Disclose and distribute all source code, including your own. You may not deploy it on a network without disclosing the full source code of your applications under the AGPL license. It's a website. I'm not distributing the website anywhere, so I'm not sure that applies. Your own product and web-based applications. Well, no, maybe it does apply. It's a legal violation to use the iText community and open source add-ons in a non-AGPL. Okay, so I don't think this is for me. So then, okay, I'm going to need a commercial license, I guess. How to buy, and you've got a YouTube video to teach me how to buy your software? Okay, 3 models, conditions that fit your business and deployment. What are those conditions? There's a lot going on here. This is very confusing. I'm going to move on. Here's SyncFusion. SyncFusion is a component vendor. They make lots of components, and this is their PDF processing APIs for .NET. They call it document processing. So I'm going to check out the pricing up here. Retail license, unlimited license, community license. I'm probably going to be retail, a single developer, platforms included. I don't see limitations if I want to run it in client side. Okay. But I'm really going to be server side, not Blazor server side, but probably ASP.NET Core. But this is pretty clear for me. These are the tools that I use. I'm probably going to be here in the ASP.NET Core for the types of projects that I'm going to be building. Build a little web server that's going to host and generate PDFs. This is pretty clear for me. So I think I have the ratings for going through and looking at this. So let's give a 4 to IronPDF. Very clear, licensing button right up front. Click that, 3 options, boom, done. No restrictions on anything. Aspose, they made it very clear exactly what to go through and look at, and there were 5, 6 options, and very clearly here's the list of features that are available for each. SyncFusion has a bunch of different options for different platforms, really easy for me to identify, and I can find that. And iText is just so confusing. They even had to put a video together to teach me how to buy your software. That's a lot. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about our next topic, compatibility. I went through and looked at all the contents of the websites and looked at the compatibility and put together this matrix from the documentation on each of their component websites. And you can see IronPDF has a ton of services that they're available on. I thought it was a little interesting that IronPDF and iText both mentioned cloud services that they were compatible with. Notably also, Iron works on Mac, Linux, and Docker. Aspose only says they work on COM and .NET Framework. COM. That was one that kind of blew me away. They're the only ones that work on COM. But clearly, if you're going to be building with PDF and you need .NET Framework, all of these products support that. And iText has another broad selection of capabilities there that you can choose and get their tools working on many different platforms. Important for me was .NET 6. I wanted to make sure that it worked on .NET 6. So Aspose is out. They aren't going to work for me over there. So I'm going to give these scores 4 for IronPDF because of how many platforms they're compatible with. iText second, so we'll give them a 3 because they're covered in so many other platforms. 2 for SyncFusion because they work in all of the .NET Core, .NET 5, .NET 6 frameworks. And Aspose at the end for support for COM and .NET Framework only. So that felt kind of weird. Let's dig in and take a look at the getting started experience next. All right, let's get into writing some actual code with this next one. So I'm going to jump back out of here and head over to that IronPDF website and getting started, that startup experience, right in my first line of code, get me successful with just a little bit of technology. I'm on the front page of IronPDF and it's right here. Look at this. There's a couple of samples, different things that we can generate. Let's do this one down here. Let's just generate a little bit of a PDF from some HTML. I'm going to pass in just a hello world. I have this over in Visual Studio. Let me jump over there. And I've copied this into a console application. Real simple. I added a NuGet reference to IronPDF, just like it says on that front page. So I added that Chrome renderer, render HTML as PDF, and save as output PDF. I'm going to go ahead and run that. And there's my PDF file. Hello world. Okay. It's not a lot, but it's a getting started experience. You've made me successful with the first bits of your code quickly as a PDF. Let's go over to Aspose and take a look at theirs. So here I'm inside their documentation, and this is the getting started page, the hello world example. It's a little bit more code. That's okay. I've got a project already started that I've copied this code into. Let me show you that over in Visual Studio. Here's that code from the Aspose website. I've got my document, adding a page to it. I'm going to add a paragraph to it that's a text fragment. That's a lot of code already. What the heck? I just want to write hello world. And output file name, system IO path combined, data directory, hello world out, .pdf. All right, and save that document. Okay, let's run that and see what happens. And here's that PDF. Now, take a look. There's an evaluation only tag up at the top. Over here in the IronPDF, there's an evaluation tag at the bottom. That's okay. I'm okay with that for the purposes of testing and trying. So, okay, looks good. That was pretty easy to get through. Let's try SyncFusion next. And I'm here on their document processing page. I scrolled down about halfway, and there's this blue block on the page with some very low contrast text here. That's a little bit difficult to read, particularly the comments on the side. I've copied this and I've put it into a project over in Visual Studio. So here I am looking at that same code from SyncFusion in here. I've added a reference to the SyncFusion NuGet package, and I don't like that right away. There's a red underline here that indicates the PDF document it exists in two different libraries, SyncFusion PDF Net and SyncFusion PDF Portable. Well, let's take a look over here. SyncFusion PDF Net, but I didn't reference SyncFusion PDF Portable. And now I'm debugging to fix their sample code. I'm going to put a pin in this one and come back to it. Too much. I want to be successful right away here. And we'll go over to iText. Here's the iText community page. We'll scroll down, and I like this. Nice how it works block. Very high contrast text. I have my choice of Java or C# code. I've ticked it over to C# there, and it's, what, 4 or 5 lines of code to build a Hello World PDF. I've already copied this into Visual Studio. So over here, here's my Hello World. I've got the iText software already installed, the NuGet package available. It's all copied in here. We're going to open a writer, create a document, and in that document, we're going to add a paragraph for Hello World. So let's give that a shot. We'll start this up. And here's my Hello World from iText. And this one doesn't have any kind of a indicator on it, any kind of a watermark. Okay, that I'm pretty cool with that, but I've got the Hello World experience running with iText. So let's give some scores to quantify our experience here. I'm going to give IronPDF a 4. It was right on the front page, real easy to discover. iText a 3, nice high contrast UI, easy to grab that code, 4 lines of code, drop it into a project, nice output here. SyncFusion a 2 because of that low contrast and a little bit harder to read on their page. And Aspose, I wasn't able to get the project working, so I'm going to give that a 1. All right, let's move on next and talk about the ease of use of the API for a C# developer. When I think about APIs and how easy it is to use software for me as a developer, I want to take a look at a little bit underneath the covers at some of the code that's available. Now, I'm going to give a quick review and show just a few things that I've seen here, but I've done some digging through documentation of the rest of the website. We're going to look at documentation actually coming up in a little bit. But let me show you a little bit of what I've seen about each one of these products. And let me start with IronPDF. So when I look at this, very clear for me as a developer to get in and start building PDFs. Things come off of this renderer object, and it's clear things come off of this renderer object, and it's clear immediately I've got a couple of actions that I can take right away. Render HTML as PDF, render a URL as a PDF, set some rendering options, and then I can jump in and do further configuration, right? Check this out. So I can take that PDF, and now I've got great control of the content around it. I can add a background, I can add overlays, footers, headers, extract images from it if I need to go and change some things. I can work with the form that's inside the PDF, work with the metadata, passwords, all kinds of really cool capabilities that I can do to interact with this. And it all jumps off of that one object and gives me some very clear direction on the things that I can do with it. I like that. It kind of fits the way that I think about my software. So let's move on then and talk about Aspose. So here's the Aspose software. And it's very verbose. Look at this. I have to create a document, and then I have to create a page and start adding pages and paragraphs and define text fragments. Really, really descriptive of the things that I need to do in order to go and build my document. And when I look down further at some of the other demos that we're going to get into later, I can render that URL as content. But once again, I have to be very verbose. I have to be very descriptive. Very cool, very thorough, but a little bit more than the way that I think about and interact with my code. All right. Let's head over here and talk about SyncFusion. And I was actually just tinkering with this and looking at some of the very verbose, very cool things that I can do with the SyncFusion APIs here. Really, really great stuff. The settings here are so extensive that I can put into this. Really great stuff, but sometimes settings can get a little overwhelming. But I like having all of this configuration and capability available to me here inside my SyncFusion project. Cool stuff. And finally, let's go over and take a look at iText. And when I look at this, simple, very simple API. It's similar to Aspose in that it thinks document first. I'm writing PDFs, so let me focus on writing a PDF and creating a document and feeding things into that and having the structure of paragraphs in different ways to interact with that. And I can interact with and collect data from other websites, get stream from those other websites, and I can load that content. Cool. A lot of different ways to get in and interact with it. So I want to give some scores here to the products. This is a pretty close one, but I've got to draw lines. So IronPDF built the way that I think, one object model for me to come off of. I like that. I'm going to put them at the top. SyncFusion, Aspose, and iText, all very similar. I'm going to put SyncFusion in as number 2 and give them 3 points because it is a very straightforward way for me to interact with their content and think about things. And I don't have to think too much about the various pieces of the page that I'm writing to get in there. Where iText and Aspose, I have to start thinking about paragraphs and fragments and things to get in there, and it starts to become just a little bit much for me to manage. All right? So I feel good about where we're going so far, and I'm going to continue moving forward with this. So here I am at the IronPDF API docs, and I want to take a look at these docs and get a feel for them. And I've already browsed through them. This is a nice format that we see here with all the objects down the side here that we're able to interact with. There's information here about compatibility and getting started, trying out the APIs. That's nice. I've even got light and dark mode in the APIs. I'm going to do the same test for all 4 sets of APIs. I'm going to look for the PDF signature capability. This is one of those features that's available in PDF that all of these tools should support. So if I search for signature, I get a bunch of different classes. I've got my search results highlighted here. Let me click into this one, the PDF signature class, and I get some nice details here about what it is, what it inherits, kind of like you'd expect from documentation like the Microsoft documentation, right? Different information about it, properties, fields, signature image, okay, signature contact, methods that are available, and so on and so forth. Not bad. It's a very clear definition of here's the API that's available. Let's move on to Aspose. So here I am at Aspose's PDF documentation for .NET, and there's great information here about all the different versions. I can click through to the top, and there's a great intro here, just like we saw over in the IronPDF with some chapters, getting started, different things. You have to jump off to get to them, but that's okay. Makes it clear, though, how to find that stuff. Let me search for our signature feature, and I'll press enter, and I get a couple of options here. Let's add a signature to a PDF file. And I didn't get an API, but I actually got here's how to do what you're looking for. That's pretty cool. That's really handy to have more of an answer-driven set of documentation. I'd love to get to the API. I guess I don't really need it when I have the full documentation of here's how to do this thing. There's the signature class, and I can now see that API. So really cool how Aspose does that. I like that. I like that a lot. Let's go over to SyncFusion. Here's their documentation for their PDF file formats. Let's search for a signature here. And key features, not really a getting started type of area here, but more, here's the things you can do with it. And I see a handful of different things here. Let's take a look at PDF digital signature, and I get a couple of options that look like they're similar answer-driven approaches, working with digital signature, and I get those steps. Here's how to work with this thing, and click through and do that. And I've got different flavors of tools and frameworks that I can use to copy that specific content. If I click through to digital signature here, though, it takes me to another product page. I want to see the API. The goal for this is I want to see what is a signature, show me methods, properties, and those things. And I like having the answer for here's how to solve, here's how to work with and do that thing. But where's the API? Where do I get the actual, okay, is this a click off to the PDF signature class? It was buried about 4 or 5 demos down. Not exactly accessible, something that I can find and jump into. It's not linked in the contents here either. So nice, a little bit harder to find and discover. Let's head over to iText. And iText doesn't have a welcome getting started thing here, but it does have, here's all the different versions for all the different libraries that we have. I think I'm on iText 7 for .NET. I think I'm on the latest one. So I'm going to go to that one. And I get this very generated user interface for searching through the APIs. So I'm going to search through here for signature. And it's not helpful tutorial, but and And I don't even have a signature object. I've got what signature utility. Let's see what that is. So I'm in at a class. I have very clearly here, here's the methods, a little description of what's going on, but doesn't give me that extra, here's how to use this. Here's an example of what makes this so cool. So nice, helpful, but doesn't deliver everything, right? That extra little bit that Aspose and SyncFusion did to give me that extra bit of help. So let's give some scores here. So I'm going to give Aspose a 4. I'm going to give IronPDF also a 4. I wasn't necessarily looking for the help text of here's how to use this, but the intro and how to get started before the search for those documents, that was pretty good too. SyncFusion I'm going to give a 3 just because it was a little bit harder to actually find the API. The drive of this was to work with the APIs, and it was a little bit harder to find it. It was very solution focused. It got me the answers I might need to build and work with the signature. But if I need the API, it was just a couple extra steps down. So I'm going to deduct a point for that. And iText I'm going to get put in with 2 points because they give me just the API. All the APIs and just the APIs. It's good to be able to find that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more around samples usage in there as well. All right, next step. Since I'm a web person, I want to talk about HTML to PDF capabilities. So I'm going to set up a couple demos here, and I already showed you a little bit of that source code. Let's go through and take a look at those demos and talk about how each of these products implement converting web pages and web content to PDFs. All right, for this next set of demos, I wanted to test how these tools would render 3 different types of websites. The first is really a static website. That's kind of the content that I'm going to end up building and delivering to go with my reports that I'm going to generate from ClipTalk. So here's the static website that gets served for ClipTalk when you first navigate there. If you're a social media bot or you're a search engine, it gets this content so that it's very clear that it's just that text, nothing crazy running around, very simple HTML. And when you scroll down, you see there's images with links. So not bad, easy to kind of pick up what this content is. I then want to test a more complex website that has some JavaScript, has some advanced CSS rendering. So let's bring up ESPN. ESPN's a sports website that has all kinds of motion graphics that happen, has information that's live, that's being rendered, and it has some mobile rendering capabilities built in there. So let's try rendering the ESPN website. Finally, I want to put together a form and see what happens when we render a form. I want to generate a form for folks to be able to fill out in a PDF and send back. So here's a form that I put together in HTML, very simple content with some name and address information, a state box here that's actually a drop down. I've hard coded just one entry in it for Pennsylvania, but I wanted to see what it looked like when we pass that on. Phone, email, shoe size. These are different data types here. This is an email text box, and this is a numeric text box. So I wanted to see how it would render those, as well as some radio buttons and a checkbox at the end, because everybody wants to fill out a form and check the box at the end that says, send me spam. Okay. Let's take a look. I've written code for each one of these. They're sitting in that sample repository that you see just below. I'm going to go to the sample first for IronPDF. So my first method here is going to start a stopwatch so I can time things, start a renderer, have it go to that ClipTalk website, write that out as a PDF file, and write out a quick stat on how long it took to render. I'll run this one. And here's that static website rendered as a PDF by IronPDF. It wrapped nicely. It put proper margins around it. That's cool. I still see my links highlighted here. I have my watermark. Okay. Things are a good size here that I can read inside this PDF. Nice. My images are all popping up with links appropriately to those. That's cool. It is a pretty good representation of what was in the original document. Let's move over and we're going to do the same thing now with Aspose. All right, here's the code for Aspose. Let me tell it to run that sample. So we're going to load that same ClipTalk website. We're going to set up an A3 piece of paper, and we're going to render the content as a URL stream into that and then write out that PDF. Let's give this one a shot. And there's nothing there. It didn't write out the file. It should have written this out. But I don't have a file. Okay. That one didn't work. Let's move on now and take a look at SyncFusion. So similar content. Let's close these samples. So here's my static web. I'm going to convert from that website, the ClipTalk website. Let me get rid of this extra line of code here that I was tinkering with. I'm going to write to ClipTalk static, save that file, close that file. Let's start this. Let's see what happens. I'll open it up and okay, not as much margins on this one by default. We've got the watermark at the top overlaying the initial header. It's a trial version, so okay, I'll forgive that. Looking down here, the images didn't load. That's a problem. Okay. We'll have to move on from that. Let's take a look at iText next. So here we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open a PDF writer to write out a file. We're going to get a stream from that ClipTalk website and convert it to PDF, which should write it to disk. So let me set this up so it runs the static web sample, and we'll run the iText demo. Something went wrong. Can't open this file. I don't know. Just to make sure, let's make sure we flush that stream, and we'll try it one more time. And there's nothing there in that file. Okay. So the simple example of, hey, just load this up, convert it to a PDF and write it out, we've already got two that aren't working very well. Let me go back to IronPDF and let's take a look now at the ESPN website. So I'm going to move this down. We'll go to a full website. We're going to look at ESPN, Chrome PDF renderer, a little bit of a render delay. We're going to write this out as ESPN IronPDF. So let's go to execute that one. And here's the ESPN website. Looks like there was even an update since we last looked at it. Okay, there's an animation at the top that doesn't look like it rendered completely, but look at how it formatted things in mobile format. This is kind of interesting. There's that Brazilian score that we saw earlier, but interesting, not all the images loaded. Maybe I needed to give a little bit more of a delay, but the HTML content is here and it's formatted kind of cool as mobile. All right. I can work with that. Let's try Aspose now and see if that works. Well, Aspose didn't work, so let's jump over to SyncFusion and see if we can get that working. So SyncFusion, and we're going to do a full website. We're going to go to espn.com. We're going to write it out. It's the exact same syntax we were looking at earlier. So instead of our static website, let's go to that full website, and I'll change this to SyncFusion, and let's give that a shot. Here's my ESPN PDF. Look at that. So interesting, they put the ESPN header up at the top, and the watermark from SyncFusion is in the middle of it. Okay, I can deal with that. Once again, nicely formatted with the borders, still in a mobile format, but I'm okay with that. They cut this image in half here for the Brazilian World Cup match. Not bad, not great, but not bad. Maybe there's something I can do to help with that. Okay, let's move on and let's do the iText demo. So last one over here. So this is for a full website going to ESPN iText, and we're going to try and render that out. We're going to pivot and run that demo. So not Iron, iText. There we go. Debug. Start that one. That one didn't open either. Clearly something isn't quite working right with iText. Okay, let's move on to the final demo that I wanted to do, and let's talk about forms. Now, for forms, I actually wrote that web page, right? So this is a local page. I'm going to localhost, so let's set that up and see what we get. So I'm really only down to IronPDF and SyncFusion at this point. So I'm going to grab IronPDF and the exact same code. It's going to the form on localhost 7245. This is form IronPDF. And if you want to see the website source code, that's included here. It's down at the bottom. You can find that. And you can see exactly how I wrote that. So let's run this one for IronPDF. And I'll start that. So here's the form that IronPDF rendered. This looks interesting. I'm already seeing some things here I like. So this came out of the website that I had over here that was built off of that default ASP.NET template. And I've got a header up here. Well, they rendered the header as well with the button on the side as though it were on mobile. Okay. But look at these form fields. They've got a blue background. I didn't set them to be blue, but they're actual form fields. I can type into this. Oh my gosh. This is great. Right? The state, that's a drop down. Yeah, it gave me all the entries for my drop-down. Postal code. The phone number isn't a phone number field. Okay. And it looks like this isn't really an email. Is this a numeric? No. But it's still a text box. I can work with that. How about the radio buttons? The radio buttons don't work, and neither does the checkbox. But the text boxes work real nice, and there's the footer from my webpage. That's pretty cool. Let's head over and try the SyncFusion. So SyncFusion, once again, nothing fancy here, going to that same website. I'm rendering the form. I'm going to write it out to a form sync PDF. Let's change this to SyncFusion and make sure we run that demo. Here's that PDF. I open it up and okay, once again, watermark overwriting the header. We can work with that. And the fields all render, but they're not fields. They're just squares on the screen. Nice. It is what was on screen, but I can't interact with it like I could with the Iron solution. Okay. Definitely some things to think about here, because this isn't the same solution. This isn't the same thing that we went through. Okay. Well, let's give some scores for this. I've got to give Aspose a 0. The tool didn't work. It didn't even try to render a PDF. IronPDF, I'm going to give a 4 to. The form looked great and I can interact with it. The web pages all looked good. SyncFusion, the pages looked good and I can interact with them. iText, clearly it's trying to do something, but maybe I have the wrong syntax or something, so I'm going to give them a 2. All right. I think that just about brings us to the end here. All right, so the last thing that we really want to look at is support. And I think a good way to measure support is how frequently do these packages get released? How frequently are they making updates and publishing? So here's the SyncFusion project. I'll open that one back up. Here's iText. There's Iron. And Aspose was up here. There we go. So taking a look here, SyncFusion. We can see their release cycle by looking at versions, and holy smokes, it looks like they're releasing once a week. That's very active. That means that they're constantly taking changes, fixes, and implementing them and rolling them out. So there's a team that's actively working on this. I like that. Heading over here to iText, let's look at the versions. And it looks like they roll out versions maybe once a year. That feels weird. Moving on, IronPDF, we'll take a look at the number of versions, and it looks like it's maybe once a month. Okay. Aspose, so we'll scroll down and fancy, look at all that going on there. Look at the versions, and looks like they're about once a month as well. That's not bad. Okay, I can work with these. It's very clear where folks are investing and releasing versions here. So let's give some scores. Aspose, they're releasing once a week. Got to put them at the top there. IronPDF, we saw they're releasing, looks like every, right, there's IronPDF. Looks like they're releasing once a month. We'll put them in with a 3. SyncFusion, back here, it looks like they're at once a week as well, but not really releasing new versions. These are point releases. So we'll give them a 2. And iText, they're so far out in their release cycles here. My goodness, they're once a year. We got to put them at the end. So let's wrap up. Let's go through and let's call this where it is and really hit a wrap up on these and make a decision on which product to get here. So I put all those scores on the chart here, and figuring highest is the one that got the most 4s, got the best scores. You know what? The folks at IronPDF were right. They're pretty good when compared to the other products. It was disappointing that some of those demos just flat didn't work when I tried to render the websites. And it really hurt the folks at Aspose. They had a really nice product, but it didn't work when I tried to render websites. Same thing with iText. It just didn't work. But SyncFusion definitely they've done a lot of work to make that a thing. But clearly the 3 commercial offerings here, IronPDF, Aspose, SyncFusion, were a lot better than the open source iText solution. And clearly the folks at Iron are releasing regularly. They've got new capabilities that they're adding, they're lighting up. Very clear to use API for us. Licensing was very easy to jump in and work with. The watermarks I can deal with when I'm testing, and it was clear how to get a license and start using, so I could ditch those watermarks. And I appreciate that each one of the tools had a watermark that they would put in there when you didn't buy their product. So I think I'm going to move forward and get my hands on IronPDF when I want to build and work with PDF rendering using HTML. As a web person, I feel comfortable with that, and I've got a great tool here that I can use that's going to make delivering that easier. Hey, if you like this review, if you want to see more reviews like this, check out the link just below to my channel. Click that subscribe button, click the bell to be notified. I think I'm going to do more of these. This was a lot of fun to build. Check out the links in the description for the source code that I demoed here. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe you can send me a pull request to help fix some of those demos. And I've also got links there to each one of these products if you're interested in learning more. Thanks so much for watching.